Da, 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 da. Hey, everybody. Come on in here. This is a very special news breaking Periscope. It's late at night, so we've switched from coffee to water. Eric Finman is here. Everybody say hi to Eric Finman, boy genius, and Bitcoin multimillionaire. So you've probably all seen the news. There's word that the FBI or some members were part of some kind of secret society. And I know a lot of you wanted to know about that, so I did some digging around, talked to some people, and I found an actual member of the secret society, and I thought I would interview him on camera here. Now, I'm kind of low tech. I've just got one microphone, so you're only going to be able to hear one of us at a time, I think. I'm not sure if the microphone will pick up somebody sitting next to me. Let me test it. Can say something, see if we can pick it up on the microphone. All right. Did you hear that? Okay, so it sounds like only one of us will appear on the microphone. But when I get off camera, I'll give him the microphone, and then he can take it from there. So if you excuse me a minute, I'm going to get my interview subject, a member of the FBI's secret society. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to be, no, just sit down. Well, yeah, I know. I'll give you the microphone when you sit down. I know it's a secret society, but you said you'd do this. What are you going to change your mind now? No, just, how about if you wear a disguise? Like wear maybe a hat. I could give you some kind of sunglasses or something like that, and then you can do it. You can take the microphone and then just sit in the chair. All right. All right. Well, here I go. Here I go. What? They can't hear you now when you ask the questions? Great. How about if I just, I'll repeat the question before I answered it. All right. And feel free to ask some questions about the secret society. Now, how did it all start? Well, it's like a lot of things. The secret society sort of grew organically. It started down as just a lot of, it was a swingers kind of thing. We were just there to swap partners and that sort of thing. And then we thought, well, let's call it a secret society because we don't want that stuff in our text messages. And since then there's been a little mission creep. We started simple. But then we started talking about politics, and one thing led to the next thing, and then somebody said, well, why don't we just overthrow the government? Like, that would be a great idea. And so we started thinking about that and talking about it, and so we decided to change our mission a little bit and to overthrow the government. A lot of the things you've seen came from the secret society. It's not obvious. For example, the dossier. The entire dossier came out of a drinking game at the secret society, where we were trying to see who could come up with the most ridiculous thing that somebody would believe. I think it was Andy who won it with the hooker and the mattress thing, and we were like, oh, you win, Andy. Nobody's going to beat the hooker and the mattress. There were some other operations that we ran. For example, have you heard of Stormy Daniel? Has anybody heard anything about Stormy Daniel? Now, Stormy Daniel is not what you think. It's been reported that Stormy is a porn star. Well, not originally. Originally, Stormy was, one of our undercover agents in the secret society. Stormy's original name, this will be no surprise, was not Stormy. It was actually Walter. And when I say that we go deep undercover, we go really deep. So Walter normally wouldn't take an assignment like this, but Walter is very committed. And so changed his name to Stormy, made a few alterations. Some of them are one way. And the rest you've read about, I think. Now, yeah, you've also seen, I think, pictures of UFOs. Now, the UFOs are not what you think. They're not actually alien spacecraft. These are the vehicles that we use in the secret society to get around. Normally, we try to avoid detection. We've got stealth technology, but every once in a while, your stealth drive doesn't engage, and somebody gets a picture. But we just play that off. We just say, it's probably somebody's imagination. That's just a fly in your windshield. That's not a picture of a secret society craft. Now, we, of course, are behind all of the, every conspiracy theory. That's all us. It's all us in the secret society. And the Unabomber, no, the Unabomber wasn't one of us. It turns out there's more than one secret society. He was in the other one. Yeah, so Walter has been deep undercover, and he's really committed. What can I say? When he decides to go undercover, he goes way undercover. Now, somebody said, I don't understand the point of this. Well, you'd understand the point of it if you were a member of the secret society. I think that's obvious. Now, Radcliffe questioned somebody? You mean Harry Potter? All right, do you have any questions for the secret society? Did it start at Yale? No, it wasn't Yale. Like I said, it was just kind of grew out of some extracurricular activities. Does anybody else have any questions about the secret society? Pizzagate, yeah, that was one of ours. We thought, what's the wildest thing we could get somebody to believe? And we thought, pizza, pedophiles, put them together. It's going to be dynamite. Yeah, you can join the secret society, but the application form is secret. So it's not easy, but if you guess the secret and figure out where the forms are, just fill one out. Too secret for your taste. Well, I think that's enough of the interview with the secret society. So do you want to come back on? All right, I'm going to give this bald guy with the glasses the microphone back. Hold on. All right, I'm back. I took his shirt because I just liked it. I think I look good in his shirt. The first rule of the secret society is there's no secret society. You're right. All right, I have a feeling, sarcasm off, that we're going to be real disappointed with the secret society. You kind of want it to be something kind of cool, and maybe it is. Maybe there really was a group of people plotting the overthrow of the government, but probably not. So we might be a little disappointed in the secret society. No, Tom Cruise is in the other secret society. Did I create the Russian bots? Well, you think that the Russian memes and the bots were influencing the election, but I have a feeling that somebody in the secret society talked them into it, because those were the weakest memes I've ever seen in my life. So if you've ever seen those memes, they're not exactly persuasive, if you know what I mean. What does Christina think when she sees this? I'm hoping she won't watch it. All right. You don't like my acting? My God. My God. Yeah, the secret society needs a name, doesn't it? All right, so on a different topic, I updated my persuasion reading list, and you can see that in my blog. So go to dilbert.com and click the blog, or you can see it in my Twitter feed, and it's an update to the books that I recommend you read for persuasion. So somebody said, interested to learn what else the secret society could be. Well, I use this rule for predicting. If there's a fantastical explanation that would, blow your mind if it were true, and there's also a very, very ordinary explanation, it's probably the ordinary explanation. So what would be the ordinary explanation for saying that you have a secret society, even if you're in the FBI? Well, the ordinary explanation, given that you did say it on a medium that can be discovered, text, the ordinary explanation is it was just a figure of speech. It's just a group of people who get together and say things that maybe the FBI wouldn't like them to say. But that's far short of overthrowing the government. So probably secret society was just a phrase used among friends. Now, it could be that there was an actual secret society that was talking about overthrowing the government, but I'm going to bet against that. Check Drudge, there is breaking news about the secret society. Oh, I heard that there's a source who confirms, there's an insider who confirms there's a secret society. Here's how you want to interpret that. One possibility is that there's a real secret society that's trying to overthrow the government, and a source has ratted them out. Possible. It's possible. Here's another possibility. There's a disgruntled employee who does not get invited to the secret society meeting and has just heard of them. Well, I heard about these people. They don't invite me, but they get together and they go drinking every Friday afternoon. I sure wish they'd invite me, but all I can say is they do have a secret society. So it's more likely that somebody says, I've heard them say it before. It's their little name for their little group that gets together. It's far less likely that they're plotting to overthrow the government. Give us that site again. Which site? Oh, dilbert.com. Or you could just Google Persuasion Reading List, and you'll find my Persuasion Reading List. Yeah, it's the same list that I've tightened up a little bit, and I added Win Bigley because that wasn't on the list and obviously needed to be there. All right. So I didn't have much else to say today. I will tell you that I'm working on converting these periscopes, perhaps not this one, but the periscopes in general, onto audio so that they'll be in podcast form. A lot of people ask for that, so I'm going to work on that first. I've got the Patreon account that people are donating small donations to keep me periscoping and extend it. Somebody said this is your pillow talk. Well, it's excellent for that. You just close your eyes and lean back and think about what a great day you had. Starting to sound like Arlo Guthrie. I don't even know if that's a good thing. So I'm going to sign off now and do some other things. Did anybody enjoy the interview with the Secret Society? It's good to get feedback, because it's the sort of thing that, you know, a full half of you, at the very least, probably hated. Boo is recovered. Boo, the cat who ran away for a day. I found her in the backyard of the house where she used to live, and I guessed that she might have found her way back there, and she did. I pot you to sleep, somebody said. I'm not sure if that was an intentional typo or not. Do you think they have a secret handshake? It seems like they need one. We'll work on that. Thank you for joining Patreon. Oh, good. Some people liked it. That's good to know. Your messages lag behind the asking of the question. Would have been better with the beard. You know, I thought about doing the beard for that, just for the extra funniness, but I couldn't decide if the Secret Society would be the same as the liberal bearded guy. So I think I'm going to create some different characters, uninspired. Give you a secret sign that you see my comment? This one. All right. I need better actors. I really do. Yeah, the Patreon is doing well. Lots of people doing micro donations, which I appreciate very much. So it is incenting me to do more of these and to extend it to podcasts and maybe some text index and maybe some text summaries if people want it that way. Deep state is real. You know, I do believe that there is a deep state. That much seems real enough, but I'm not sure how organized they are, and I'm not sure that they necessarily are doing things illegal. So we might find that that's the case. It's probably just the usual spin in psychology and, you know, trying to manipulate the news coverage and framing things their way and that sort of thing. We know that's happening. I'm going to give you a little, I always like to give something a little extra to the people who wait till the end of the Periscope. Let me put this idea out there. I might talk about this in a longer Periscope form. There was a time when the news was somewhat objective, meaning way back in the Walter Cronkite days, when the news was pretty close to just being the news, as far as we knew. You know, maybe it was biased and we just didn't realize it, but it looked like it was fairly objective. And in that reality, the voters ran the country, because they would look at the news, they'd make decisions based on that news, and people would process it differently depending on their priorities and what they cared about. And then they would vote in a way that, you know, fairly directly would change policies in the direction of the vote. But that day has changed. Now the news is silos of special interest. You know, people just take sides. And since the Walter Cronkite days, we've learned a lot of technology for persuasion in all its forms. In other words, a news outlet can measure which stories get the best result, which tells you they're more influential, they can tell how much it's being shared, etc. And they can continually A/B test until, very much like Facebook and Google and Twitter have been accused, they do actually create the opinions in the public. So there was a day when we got objective news, and then the citizens were in charge, and they used something that felt like free will, but probably wasn't, to control the voting, to control the government. Now that the technology for measuring every bit of news, every article, every opinion, you can measure how effective it is. You can actually tell if it's moving the needle. In that kind of world, where people are getting individual news that the social media companies figure, well, this person's a sucker for this kind of message. In that world, the news providers are running the country. Because today, you get your news from a source, and that's the only thing you know. The only thing you know is what you see in the news, and most people are siloed in their side of the news. So in that world, the people don't run the world anymore. At least not the public, not the voting public. The only people running the world, because we can measure our impact of our persuasion in real time, and it's now weaponized to the point where free will is no longer even an illusion. You know you're being controlled by the big interests, the social media companies, the big news outlets. Now it gets more interesting. In the old days, when I was coming up in my current career, there were some media outlets that were called newsmakers. Now, a newsmaker is different from just somebody who reports the news. The newsmakers are the ones who decide what's important in all the noise. So that was the New York Times, the Washington Post, and Wall Street Journal. So those three would sort of decide what the news was. This is going back to Walter Cronkite days. And then all the other outlets, the local papers, the television broadcasts, would sort of follow their lead. So that the breaking stories, the things that made news, were really three print outlets. I would argue that in our current day, the print people are less persuasive than TV. Because television news, as their production values, their ability to persuade, their ability to put engaging, charismatic people on in just the right combination to sell a narrative, television has now sort of replaced the written word for persuasion. Now, the New York Times and Washington Post, they still create stories, but they don't become persuasive until they go through the filter of either, wait for it, CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. Because they're visual forms of persuasion, far more than, say, a picture running in a newspaper, and the intellectuals are the people reading the newspaper anyway. They're a small percentage of the population. But a lot of people see CNN. A lot of people see Fox News and MSNBC. So I would argue that the world is now being run by three entities who compete. Now, CNN and MSNBC you could think of as on the same side, but they do have different bosses, different funding, etc. So they're a little bit independent in the sense that whoever is running one, let's say MSNBC, doesn't necessarily always agree with CNN, etc. Now, on top of that, whoever gets most of their politicians in office, and this time it was mostly Republicans. So Republicans in Congress, Republican president. In that world, since the Republicans are the ones who have power, that means that the power is concentrated away from CNN and away from MSNBC, because even though they can influence things, maybe influence the next vote, for example, 2018, but it's hard for them to influence much in the meantime because they're not Republicans. And Republicans are watching them, and the Republican politicians are watching their own base and deciding what to do based on how it influences the base more than anything else. So in that world, Fox News is kind of running the country. Right? Now, if 2018 gives us, let's say, a Democratic majority in Congress, and let's say the election after that flipped it completely so that we had Democrats in charge of everything, power would move away from Fox News entirely to CNN and MSNBC, who would be sort of duking it out for power. Now let's go further. If I say a news organization is really telling the people what to think, and then the people are electing the politicians, and the politicians have to serve those people, it's not the news organization in general. There are probably just a few people who influence what's on CNN, and then everybody follows suit, and Fox News as well. So when you talk about your secret society, keep in mind that what used to be our democratic process where people got objective news and they voted on things based on that, that doesn't exist anymore. The people are not in charge because their opinions are provided to them by just perhaps 3 people in the whole country. 3 different people with 3 different opinions, so they're all competing for which one wins in the public eye. But for the most part, the country is run by the 3 news organizations at this point. You know, and the network news, they're lesser players in this world. Yeah, PBS, they're lesser players. NPR are lesser players. If it's on Fox or CNN or MSNBC, that's what's influencing us. It's visual. It's on all the time. They've perfected their models. Don't buy it. Too simple. Well, I'm not saying there are no other influences. Of course, there are hundreds of important influences. But for sure, the public is only getting their opinions from the news. When was the last time you heard someone who had an opinion about President Trump that was not directly from one of the major news organizations? Yeah, ask yourself that. Is it a coincidence that your opinion seems to agree with one of the channels you watch? Somebody says, I do. Well, let me modify that. Most of you might think you do. But I've been talking politics for a long time, and I don't really hear opinions that are that different from the major networks. They just aren't that different. So I'm seeing some resistance to this concept. You should resist it because, in other words, what I'm saying should trigger cognitive dissonance in you. It's designed that way. And here's how. Once you hear this, it's kind of hard to argue against the following chain, which is that people can be influenced, and they're influenced most by the visuals, and the networks have perfected this over the years, as have the social media networks, to kind of cluster around certain narratives, one on each side. And you don't meet too many people who divert from that path by too much. Every once in a while you'll get the ultra skeptics who say, well, the Democrats and the Republicans are just working together. It's all a big trick. Or you get somebody who says, well, it's all George Soros. So you do get those people, but the reality is television is giving people their opinions. You are being influenced tremendously by the cable news. All right. News on TV. Even if you're getting your news from social media, the most effective parts are visual, and those are usually clips, and those clips almost always come from the big cable news networks. That doesn't explain Trump. I don't know who you're talking to that. The networks are bigger than networks combined. I don't know what that meant. Watch foreign news. Yeah, it's worth sampling, at least the BBC and some others, but I suspect BBC takes its lead from CNN. It looks that way. All right, so I'm going to sign off now and do some other things.